Okay, everybody. Well, Carl and I are driving to dinner, and we started having a conversation about my questions to him about some things. I don't know how else to say it, but we were sort of talking. I was kind of asking him if he felt like he identified as a Christian, or if he kind of fell along the lines of Judaism, or how exactly that worked for him based on his magical practices. And I hear him talk a lot about Kabbalistic angels and Hebrew and stuff like that. So we were just actually kind of having a conversation about those things and clarifying. And so we started talking about the Bible, and I think the reason why I started recording was because he's saying some very interesting things, and I think when he starts talking, it's something I want to share with everybody. So I had asked him, we started talking about the Bible, and I don't know if he'll be able to repeat exactly what he said, but I think that I was asking you...
Oh crap, I was supposed to get off there.
Oh, he missed his exit. But actually, that's probably the Spirit keeping us in the car for a few more minutes. I'm distracting you? Should I do this later? Okay. So, my question for Carl, we were talking about the Bible, and I think that a lot of people who come into our group who are Christians and believe in God and believe in Jesus Christ he did not miss his exit. Okay. Let me know when you're in a... Okay. How about now? Okay. So we don't crash. All right. So, a lot of people that come into our group believe in the Bible, right? And even if they're not Christians, they believe in the Bible. So we have sort of a group of people who come in the group who are Christians, who believe in the Bible and have been raised in churches and have a really hard time with what the Bible says about witchcraft, mystical people, that kind of thing, and then feeling this pull to their craft, right? Then we have this other group of people who are probably more pagan and aren't necessarily Christians, but actually do believe that the Bible exists and have value, and obviously they are not going to follow the word of the Bible like a Christian might. But I think we can all agree, no matter where you stand, that the Bible exists. So, Carl, how do we as Christian witches, how do we get past the fact that the Bible tells us that we shouldn't be doing what we're doing?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. What are you doing?
Okay, but a minute ago we were talking about the Geneva Bible and the King James Bible and all that kind of stuff. So can you say what you were talking about before with the King James Bible, about how the
Geneva Bible just has more of the original text in it. The King James Bible was obviously approved by King James in the church, but the new Bibles, like the New International Version and all that stuff, all the words, thousands of words have been changed and verses have been removed, so now the true meaning of it is not what it originally was.
But do you think that these Bibles, like the King James Bible and whatever other ones, still have the underlining truth of what the Bible was supposed to be about?
Probably some of it, but it doesn't have full truth.
Right. So do you know, I mean, it's going to show my ignorance probably, but when the King James Bible was written?
Century.
I mean,
I think it was the 15th or 16th century.
Okay.
I think it was the 16th century.
And so when we're talking about the King James Version that being approved by the church, you're talking about the Catholic Church. Mostly, right?
Or the Protestant church.
Or whoever was in charge of approving the Bibles back then. And so when we talk about those kinds of things being approved, then what we're saying is that the version of the Bible that people are getting is the version that the church, whoever it was that approved that, wanted us to have.
Pretty much.
So I was reading this article today. I was actually looking up how Judaism feels about witchcraft, because we know that there's stories about the rabbis who would cast circles to keep Lilith out when women were having babies and things like that. And it seemed to me in some of the readings that I was doing that the Jewish faith, I guess, at least some of the ancient faith, I guess, was more inclined to believe in the magic than maybe the Christians were, right? But they started talking about how one of the only stories, and we talk about this in Witchcraft 101, but one of the only stories about an actual witch is the Witch of Endor, and that they've brought her forward for something, but they never talk about her again or give any context about where she came from, right? So do you think that in the original Bibles, before they were changed, that maybe they talked more about magic and stuff like that, like with Moses and those kinds of things, and then took it out?
Yes. I mean, well, Moses held a staff. He always had, like, what they called a staff in his hand when he was doing all the stuff he did, whether you want to call it magic. He was probably instructed by God how to perform these feats of magic, and all that. But he always had the staff with him.
Right, because I watched...
Which is probably where, has a lot to do with, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it may have a lot to do with why you would use a wand.
Right. No, I agree, because we can take that back to the tools, right? Like, so we can take anything back to where do we get the tools that we use in witchcraft. So if you're taking something like Moses having a staff, and if you haven't seen it yet on Netflix, there's the Testament of Moses, the story of Moses. It's really good, and it talks a lot about the magic that Moses did. And anyway, as we go through history and things change, but they stay the same, right? So I think that's what you're kind of referring to, is that if you have a staff, or if Moses had a staff, that we could have over time... we're recording.
Sorry.
We're recording, and he missed his turn again. So he said a bad word. Anyway, going back, that they can take the original form of something like a staff, and then over time it becomes something else, like a wand. That's what you're saying, right?
Possibly,
kind of thing. So where are the books of them? Where do you think that the books of Moses were in the original Bible?
Books of Moses?
Yeah, like the 6th and 7th books of Moses.
The first 5 books were written by Moses. The 6th and 7th books of Moses, quote unquote, weren't. I don't think those are written by somebody in maybe the 16 or 1700s, I believe.
So do you know what's in them?
Just a bunch of stuff about Jewish mysticism.
So magic.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 6th and 7th books of Moses are...
There are a bunch of seals with... that have to do with Shem angels and spirits of the planets, spirits in the air, spirits of,
Like the Pentacles?
No. Like spirits of the air, water, earth, fire.
But you said
planets.
Well, don't we use pentacles to connect with the spirits of the planets?
That's a whole different system.
Whole different thing. Okay. So, do you have any idea? Like, and I'm really putting him on the spot because we're driving to dinner, and I'm distracting him to the point where he's missed his turn. For real, this time he did. But do you know why, where, or I guess, were the 6th and 7th books of Moses still in the Bible up until the King James Version?
The 6th and 7th books of Moses were never in the Bible.
Well, how do we know they exist?
Well, because they're written, but it doesn't mean they're legitimate. It doesn't mean that just because somebody wrote a grimoire, in the 16th or 1700s, doesn't mean it's legitimate. So none of these books could be legitimate. It just boils down to what you believe and what you practice. So there's a lot of people that practice magic that don't ever have any results. Nothing ever happens or whatever, just because a lot of the stuff they're reading is just a bunch of BS that was made up by a bunch of superstitious people. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah. But when you do like your candles and your rituals, the angels, the Shem angels, that they are not in the Bible either. They're in the Kabbalah, right? No, or would they have been in the?
They're the names, the 72 names come from a few verses in Exodus from the Hebrew Bible. And using a Kabbalistic code, you get the names, the 72-fold name, and then usually each name is associated with an angel that follows the attributes of that particular name.
Okay. All right. Well, so what kind of work that I do, and when it's based in hoodoo, and we base things in the Bible and Psalm. In fact, you had the Bible open. You have a Bible. We have a Bible that's by the front door, and Carl turns pages sometimes, and then that's where it sits. And there was one in there. I feel like it's in Matthew or something right now, and there was something in there where I thought that could be a spell, whatever it was that was being said in there. But
anything you say can be a spell. That's why they call it spelling. Anything you speak can be a spell.
Right.
So if you speak negatively about people, or yourself, or anybody, you, in a sense, are putting a spell on them or yourself.
I did.
So if you speak negatively about yourself all the time, or you think negatively about yourself, you could, in a sense, just be putting negative spells on yourself. So, so all these bad things happen now because you're spelling yourself in a bad way, and then you can't figure out why, and that's where a lot of the confusion comes from. And everybody talks about intent and energy and all that, and that has a lot to do with things that we do, but they don't realize how important it is for you to watch your words and your actions, especially if you're talking about yourself or other people.
I read one time, like going along with what you're saying, some practitioner was saying, like, if you tell somebody to like go to hell, that's like a curse.
Yeah.
Right? And because I don't think we talk enough, and maybe we'll have to like dive into this part of it another time, but I don't think we talk enough about how powerful words are, like you just said, and part of the reason why we say spells out loud is because of the power in those words. So anyway, we're to our destination, so I'm gonna let him off the hook, but I guess I just want people to know, like, do you feel like people can believe in God and Jesus and still practice witchcraft without going to hell?
It depends on what they're doing, what they believe. It's all up to them.
I know. Okay, for me though, I practice witchcraft, but I still have I have so much faith in God and Jesus Christ and all that kind of stuff. So, am I going to hell simply based on the fact that
all you have to do is believe.
Yeah, but then the Bible says if you practice witchcraft, you're a sorcerer or sorceress or whatever the heck.
Where does it say that in the Old Testament?
I don't know. I think so. Well, that's my argument with people all the time, is that you can't show me where Jesus says that. Right?
I don't know.
Do you think that I'm going to go to hell because I practice hoodoo?
No.
Because I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else you would like to... Could you just explain what the Geneva Bible is? Because I think it is very important for people to look at that Bible when they're looking at stuff.
The Geneva Bible is just an older version of the Bible that has not been changed and contains the Apocrypha, which are the books of the Bible that weren't approved by the church.
Okay, so if they want not that it's going to be the oldest or the most accurate, but if they want something bigger or better than King James, that's one way to go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, friends, I'm gonna trap him. I think we're gonna do a podcast called "Trapping Karl in the Car" and making him answer questions or something. But anyway, not to forget that he has a great big huge ritual coming out here pretty soon. It's going to be in the middle of February, and it is an abundance ritual I shouldn't say using, I hate that. Working with 3 Shem angels. What were their names again?
Damabia, Pael, and Yeliel.
And Karl does the connection with them on your behalf, and the abundance is meant for wealth, love, and protection. So we're really excited about that. In fact, I think we'll probably do a different, or another type of announcement, like a Facebook Live or something like that, so everybody gets all the information and can ask all your questions. But for now, I think I'll let him go, and hope you guys have a good night.